cork and a pipe.
Is it going straight up?
Yeah. What? Sorry.
That's right. Yeah, does that start out every other interview? Can I get a spelling of your name?
Sure, Bishop Nikolai, Nikolai.
Okay. And what are you doing out here in the middle of Old Harbor?
Well, it's part of the diocese that I've been chosen to administer. The Diocese of Sitka in Alaska is an old diocese in the Orthodox Church in America. It's actually the oldest diocese and the beginnings of Orthodoxy in America. And on March 21st, I was elected to be Bishop of Baltimore and auxiliary to His Beatitude Metropolitan Theodosius, who is the locum tenens, or the official administrator of the diocese. And I was chosen in his capacity as a bishop to administer the Diocese of Alaska. And I arrived here, it'll be 2 weeks on Thursday. And the arrival has been just tremendous. From the time I stepped off the plane in Anchorage with this huge number of people, clergy and people waiting with crosses and icons to welcome me, singing Ispolaiti Despota, which means many years to the bishop, was a tremendous reception. Has just continued. Coming to Kodiak last Friday, going to Uzinki yesterday, coming here yesterday, as you you experienced yourself, the people waiting out in the rain for their bishop to arrive is a tremendous experience, and something that you don't see so often in the lower 48. You see it in larger parishes, but not to the magnitude that you see here.
The response of your arrival was amazing. Around people were rushing around. It was quite impressive. Much respect, and people have for the church and for yourself.
I think it's interesting in Alaska. The respect for the bishop is at the level that the church would expect everywhere. It's they receive you as the father of the church, and you are the spiritual father of the diocese. And that's how I've been received, I have to say, by clergy and the faithful. It's a very humbling experience.
Why do you think it's that way here in Alaska?
Well, I think that probably Alaska is less inundated with all of the other distractions that we have throughout the rest of the United States. You don't see a lot of movie theaters, and you don't see 7-Elevens and arcades and all of those kind of distractions that are here. And you see in the village here and in Helsinki, where the church is the center of the village. Everything that they do is centered around the church. Where would you have that kind of reception midweek anywhere else? Even in Helsinki, the entire village virtually, by the time we had the services in the church, we went from procession to the airfield, through the cemetery to the church. We gathered people as we went along, and virtually the majority of the village was there. Even those that were fishing, came in for that.
What are your plans for the future here, in the near future?
Where?
For Alaska.
Well, I hope to visit as many parishes and meet as many people as possible. There are 86 churches and chapels throughout Alaska. I don't expect to visit all of them, in the first year. I know that was one of my hopes, but I realized after getting here it's not that easy to get around. Even here on Kodiak, there are so many villages in that I won't be able to see so easily. But I will be attending all of the 6 native conferences that are scheduled this year. And by doing that, I will visit the majority of our parishes because they will participate in those conferences. Now we're talking about having a conference in Kodiak also for this, for Kodiak and the villages and the people, the faithful who are here. And that will expand the number of those conferences. But I think there's a very fine opportunity for me to be with the people because the conferences last anywhere from 3 to 4 days. Next week we'll be traveling to the Yukon for that conference, which will be held in Marshall.
Maybe it's too big of a question, but what does this mean for the Russian Orthodox Church to have you here in Alaska traveling?
Well, I think it shows that the Church herself is interested in the people of Alaska, interested in the fact that, as I said, Alaska is the first diocese of the American Church. It's here on Spruce Island that the first missionaries came from Russia in 1794. The first parish is our parish in Kodiak itself. And then it spread throughout, the rest of Alaska, and then went down into the lower 48 through in the area of San Francisco. It tells the people in Alaska, I believe, that our church is committed to their well-being. The fact that there's a bishop here and a bishop who is willing to devote his life to the spiritual needs of the people here, I think is important. And as you can see, they respond to that. I mean, there's nothing that they're monetarily will receive, from any of these visits. It's a complete spiritual blessing that the people receive from this. And even more so, the blessings that I receive by traveling to these places.
From your so far few experiences, what's your overall impression of the native people and their commitment and their spirituality?
Simple, humble, dedicated way of life, I think. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I've been humbled here. In many places.
I could tell you something. I came from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I was a priest in Las Vegas for 22 years. And the lady who interviewed me in Anchorage, the first day I was there, actually that evening that I arrived, said to me, "Well, Alaska is really different. How are you going to be able to handle being in such a different place?" And I says, "Different is Las Vegas, Nevada, not Alaska. Alaska is a real blessing to have this kind of atmosphere. Real blessing. Our clergy, sacrifice their lives tremendously to serve the church here in Alaska. Most of our priests get nothing from their parishes. They have to fish and hunt in order to make it through the year, and very little is provided to them by the local people because there's so very little there. Little in terms of what we would think in what would a good salary be or a good position. It's not what it's like. We have a seminary in Kodiak that, thank God, has been providing the majority of the priests for the Alaskan Church. And we intend to enhance the seminary there to make it even stronger by having reader schools, school for choir directors, preparing deacons, and ultimately preparing priests, and God willing, even someday to have a native Alaskan bishop. One of the goals that I began working on yesterday was meeting with some of the people at the Uzinki Corporation so that we can proceed by having a monastic community at Monk's Lagoon, where this all began when St. Herman was there and St. Juvenali. And that was received very well and very positively, and I pray to God that the corporation will allow us to have that presence there.
What are your hopes and dreams for people of Alaska?
Well, I hope that my time here can be one of a peaceful time, a time of spiritual growth, and a time of renewal for many of the Alaskan people, the natives who have fallen away from the church, that we can bring them back by providing more services in some of those villages where we don't have priests. We only have 26 active priests in the diocese to serve these 86 communities. So some of them are serving as many as 5 or 6 villages, but to have a more regular rotation of clergy visiting these places and a little bit of organization with that, to bring back that faith that these people have given their lives for. Alaska is Russian Orthodox. You can't divide Alaska from the Russian Orthodox Church.
One last question, and before it slips away.
Too late.
Too late. Last question. Today is a busy day for you, as well for the village. It's going to be an exciting day for me. Today you'll be blessing the boats.
Right.
And can you tell me the importance of that?
Yeah. Actually, today is probably one of the less busy days I've had since I've arrived in Alaska, because the busy part of the day doesn't start till 11 o'clock, which is considerably later than it's been in every other day. So it's been very nice to be able to soak in some of the atmosphere here before the festivities begin. At 11 o'clock we're going to the cemetery and having a memorial service there for the departed. And Father Kenneth tells me that the cemetery is almost full, that we're going to have another piece of land for the cemetery, which we need to care for because we have to bury our dead and pray for them, as we do in our church. From there we're going in procession down to the pier? I don't know, pier or dock, I guess the pier. And they'll have a service, we'll have a service there to bless the fleet, the fishing fleet. And these services of blessing, boats and that come to us from the Typicon, which is our book of services that we have in the church that are hundreds of years old. So fishing boats have been blessed for centuries in the Orthodox Church because it's been a mainstay. We know that the early apostles themselves were fishermen. And so those vessels by which they were providing their means were blessed, and that's what we're doing today. It's my understanding that the fleet will go by, and I'll bless each one of them as they travel by us, and then we'll be here for the 4th of July, which is our secular holiday. But we'll bless the holiday, the secular part of the holiday, with the blessing of the fleet and the remembering of our departed.
Anything else you want to have?
No, I think that I can only say that I'm grateful to be in Alaska. It's, in terms of what's here, it's probably the most primitive of our dioceses. We have 14 dioceses in the Orthodox Church in America. Probably the most primitive in what we in terms of human values would look at, but the most spiritually enriched of all the dioceses. You know, we have 5 saints who were canonized, who labored here in Alaska. So that's a considerable number. That's more than any other diocese in the lower 48. It's actually half of all of our saints are from Alaska.
It says a lot, doesn't it?
It says an awful lot. But there was a tremendous sacrifice. 2 of them were martyred, killed, ministering to the people. And others of them were imprisoned later on when they returned to Russia. So it's a sacrifice to pay to be here. But that's what happens. The closer you come to God, the more the devil is going to work on you. He doesn't have a problem with nominal Christians. He has a problem with Christians who are committed. Those he doesn't want to exist. The nominal ones, it doesn't matter. So, in recognizing the fact that we want our people to come closer to Christ, it's going to take more prayer, more constant prayer. Not just Sunday. And you see that in the villages. Churches unlocked. Couldn't happen in the city. Anybody can come in here and pray and light a candle, and they do that during the day and all during the week. I don't think so.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So the eagle sitting over there now.